Hello and welcome back to the Road to Good Cooking, and today I'm going to show you how I made my hash brown potatoes and what I did to prepare them for freezer storage. And I'm also going to tell you about the issue that I ran into when I was canning my pinto beans and my black beans. So let's get started. Okay, the majority of my potatoes I shredded up with my food processor. But if you don't have a food processor, I wanted to show you what else to use. If you got a box grater like this or a grater like this, make sure you use that size, not the small size, because that's just going to give you a bunch of mush. So just use the same size here. See, like that? And this is one of the projects where you can get the kids involved. You know, they like to eat hash browns from McDonald's. Let them make their own hash browns. And I'll show you in a second how I made mine. Now, the only problem I'm having using my box grater is that these potatoes get sticky after a minute after you've been grinding them up. And you know how I feel about getting sticky stuff on my hands. And you know what? It's like, yeah, I got some silly triggers, but hey, I'll do whatever I got to do to make my food. You know, and that little piece there, I'm going to make me some home fries with my lunch. I haven't had lunch yet, so I'll make me some home fries with those. And I just wanted to show you this process. And it just really makes a good hash brown with fresh potatoes. And you know that you made it, and you know how fresh they are. And I caught a sale last month and this month on potatoes. So I bought a 10-pound bag last month, and I bought a 10-pound bag this month. So I have hash browns in my freezer galore. Matter of fact, my cousin's coming over this weekend, so I'm going to give her some, and I'm going to give my sister some, and, you know, my neighbors. If they want some, I'll share them, because that's what we do. We share. Alright, here's the ones that I already finished, and after I get done, I will be putting these in the freezer also. So I took my egg. This is my mold that I make my eggs with. You guys have seen me use this lots of times. And I try not to let them get too close together because they'll stick. And actually they won't stick too bad, but you don't want to have to break them apart when you're putting them in the freezer. So, to help with my triggers of having my hands sticky, and you guys know how I hate to have my hands sticky. Let me turn this around. Okay, I'm going to use my tongs and just put that in there, because at this point they are super sticky. And that should be enough for the last one. And then I use my little spatula that my sis gave me. I love these things. And just pat it down in there. And I'm not going to season them up, because I'll season them when I cook them. And that makes a perfect little hash brown. And you know what? If you don't want to do the circles, if you don't have the ring molds or whatever, just put them all in your sheet pan, and then make sure you cut them in little squares before you freeze them, and then put them in the freezer and let them set up. And then you got you some homemade fresh hash browns. And you made them, you and your kids, and they will absolutely love it. The fact that they made their own hash browns. Now, what's wrong with that? Not a doggone thing. All right, I pack a little bit more on that one, because I had just a little bit more left in the bowl. And from here, I'm going to cover them up, put them in the freezer, leave them in there just long enough for them to set up, and then I'm going to wrap them individually. And that way I can just go to the freezer when I want some hash browns, grab them out, and they're good to go. So this is going into the freezer. Let me tell you how I cooked my potatoes. I used that great big huge pot that I was doing my water bath canning with. You've seen in other videos. And I just filled it up with water and brought it to a boil, added 2 tablespoons of salt And then I put my potatoes in there whole with the skins on. I didn't cut them up or anything. I just left them whole with the skins on. And I parboiled them for about 9 to 10 minutes. Now this bag the first bag that I worked on, the potatoes were small to medium, so I only went like 10 minutes parboiling time. The second bag of 10 pounds of potatoes, the potatoes are a little bit larger. They were more like large to medium size. So I think I went about 20 minutes for that batch. And then after I parboiled them, I took everything out, put them on a rack, a cooling rack, and let them cool down completely. So they were cool enough for me to handle and shred. And then I ran them all through my food processor. And then the ones that you saw at the very beginning, I shredded those up with a box shredder in case you didn't have a food processor. That way you can see how to process them without a food processor. Make sense? And I didn't season them. I'm going to season them up when I cook them. And let's see, what else did I do? Yeah, that was about it. You know, and I so love having my hash browns ready to go. That way, if I get in a mood for hash browns with my breakfast, I just go in the freezer, grab me a package out, put it in the pan, and I'm good to go. I'm a happy camper. And you're going to love these, and your kids will too. So, happy hash brown making. Okay, got them all bagged up. I got 6 in a pack, and I got 4 bags. And I sealed them real close to the edge, like right here. That way when I'll take 2 out at a time, then I'll cut it off and then reseal it. This way I know that they'll last in the freezer, because I know it's going to take me a while to eat all these. And it's not going to happen in a month. So I wanted to make sure that they were totally secure before I put them in the freezer. I'm done. Wow. In that second batch of potatoes, I had some really big ones in there, so I set those aside, and then I cubed them up into big chunks like you see here, and I pressure cooked them, and these are going in my pantry. And this is the time of year where I like to make lots of soups and stews and, you know, just good old-fashioned comfort meals. And I know that I have a supply of potatoes, and they're ready to go. All I got to do is just open them up, and I drained them on a paper towel. And I'm going to cook them in my cast iron skillet. And in my cast iron skillet, I put a little bit of olive oil in the pan and just put them in there and just let them cook on one side till they get nice golden brown. And then I kind of turned them, you know, tossed them around in the pan to get them brown on the other side. I had some caramelized onions from my last canning project, and I put a bunch of those in my potatoes, and it took my potatoes up to a whole new level of deliciousness. It really did. I added some to the pan with my breakfast sausage, and I'm going to make a breakfast sandwich. So I'll have a breakfast sandwich with my delicious fries. This was the first batch of pinto beans and black beans that I pressure cooked, and I know that I did something wrong, like I put too many beans in the jars, and by the time they pressure cooked and set overnight, there was very little liquid left in the jar. So what I ended up doing was dumping everything out, and I put them in freezer bags, put them in the freezer, and then I started all over again. I made another batch. As you can see, I'm getting ready to can some more pinto beans, and I didn't like the way the first batch turned out, so I'm going to try something different. I'm only going to use a ½ a cup per jar, and look what I found. I found my funnel, at least one of them. I got like 2 or 3 of them, and I didn't find my little lid magnet thingy, but I did find this magnet, and this works. Look. Hey, it's not as cute as my other one, but hey, it works. So I got my jars warming up right now in the canner, and being as I have the camera already set up here, I'll try to get another angle with my phone so you can see where we are. Alright, I found a different home for my pressure canner, and I have it at the end of the counter. Right there, there's nothing there. I took everything off of that part of the counter. That's just my container that I keep my wine corks in, and it's just here all by itself right next to the sink here, and it's just a little tiny cabinet, so it's just perfect. And that way I don't have to worry about the steam from my canner doing weird things to these cabinets. I have it sitting on a piece of porcelain, and that was part of, in my old house when we renovated, we changed the floor and we put down porcelain floorings, and I kept a bunch of tiles, and they make perfect little things for little projects like this. And these are, I don't know how old these cabinets are, probably as old as I am, and I didn't want to take the chance of this thing heating up on the bottom and doing weird things to my counter, so that's why I have it sitting on this piece of porcelain tile. And it works, hey, and it matches. So let me get my counter set up so we can get going. Alright, let's get this show on the road. Finally, all my jars are in my canner. This is a regulator. It's not on there yet. It'll go on there after it starts venting. And I completely forgot to put in my 20 minutes again. So I just started it all over again. Hit pressure can. That's the 10 minutes that it's already warmed up. I'm setting it for 20 minutes. And then I'm hitting the advance button. And I'm going to I have the lid on. I'm going to lock it in place. So that says install and remove, and then here's the lock position. And then I'm going to put the lever down and lock the lid on. And it's warming up, and I'm going to hit the advance button because I know that it's going to ask me to fill the jars, and the jars are already filled and they're in there. So I'm just going to advance it, and it'll start heating up. And when it gets to that temperature, it'll start venting for 10 minutes, and then I'll put the regulator on, and then it'll start the canning, the pressure canning process. Good to go. And we're done with the first batch. And I'm happy with this batch. I can see that I still have liquid in my jars, and half a cup of beans per pint jar is probably the magic number. And a couple of days after I made this film, I did try out the first batch that I did where the liquid had pretty much been siphoned out, and it made some great chili. I just had to add a little bit more salsa to it to loosen it up a little bit. And I added some, I used ground beef on that first batch. But it turned out pretty good. And between the beans that I have in the freezer and this batch, and I'm getting ready to put on another batch before the day's over with, I'm going to have enough beans to last me for a while. And I'm probably going to give the ones in the freezer, give my sister some of those, because she likes to make chili like I do too. But yeah, I'm happy with this batch. It looks really good, and I'm real happy with this. All right, live and learn. My sister was in town, and she wanted some of my maple sausage, so I took one of those pork butts that I had bought from last month out the freezer and cut it up, ground it up, it had a bone in it, so I took the bone, left a little bit of meat on, seared it up, and then I put it in the slow cooker and just let it cook and seasoned it up with all kinds of fabulous seasonings and onions and garlic, and I made me some pork broth because we're coming into the holidays, and I use a lot of broth during the holidays, so I have some broth to get me started. This is going into my pantry. Alright, I am done canning for today. Now, the beans, I did those last night, those 12 jars there, and then I had a little bit left over, so I did these two this morning, and then the carrots I did this morning, and the pineapple. Now, I have a question for some of you amazing homesteading canning sisters out there. Now, when I did the pinto beans and the black beans, my rims looked like this when I got done. Why is that? It didn't do that on anything else but the pinto beans and the black beans. I'm just curious about that. Has anybody else had that issue? And these are ball jars and lids and rings that I'm using. And like I said, this is the only time that I saw this was when I did my black beans and my pinto beans. So, somebody help me out here. Let me know if I'm doing something wrong. Because all the jars sealed, but it just left that weird black ring over on my rings. And it looks gross. Ooh. And on top of some of the lids. See the design on the lid from the black stuff? So I'm not sure. And they're all sealed. Every single last one of them are sealed. These I just did this morning, so they're not quite. But they are sealed too. So let me know what you guys think. And let me know if you've had that issue before. And what am I doing wrong to have this issue? That's just weird. Or if I'm doing something right and it's just weird. But, you know what? I'm relying on you sisters because you guys have been at the canning game a lot longer than I have. I mean, I've been canning for a long time, but this is a new way of canning that I'm learning. And I just want to make sure I get everything dialed in right. I got my, my new Presto canner, pressure canner. I got that down pat, so you'll see that in some of the, not the earlier footage, because I was making a lot of silly mistakes, but toward the end, you'll see the difference. And from here on out. After a long day of pressure canning and having fun in my kitchen, I decided to make myself a delicious meal, starting with my pressure canned potatoes and my caramelized onions that I pressure canned a couple of days ago, and they're super delicious. My kitchen smells absolutely divine. And I'm going to season my potatoes with my brother friend Kent over at Daddy Dutch Barbecue, and his seasoning is off the chain. Peppery, but good. And if you're new to my channel, thank you so much for stopping by and spending a few minutes of your time with me today. And please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And if you enjoyed this video, give it a big thumbs up and leave me a comment if you wish. I love comments and I do answer all of my comments. And don't forget to hit that notification bell. That way you'll be notified the next time I upload a video. And thank you guys again for all your support, and thank you for just enjoying my videos. And here is my finished meal. And I started off with a glass of milk because I didn't want this milk to go bad, so I'm going to drink it. And my dinner is spicy, so it'll be good on my stomach. And here are those, look at those potatoes. Slathered them with some ketchup, and there's some of my corn relish that I made a couple of days ago. There's my chicken, and I just made a simple salad with that, with my corn relish. Alright, time to get busy. Don't forget to check out these videos before you leave. See you when I see you.